We were talking a lot about the coaching that real estate agents normally get, and it's a lot of like, call your leads, grind it out, that kind of thing. And I think that your perspective is probably going to be a lot different on people that might feel stuck in their career, or, maybe it's someone that's watching this that's thinking about going into real estate and they've got like a feeling, or someone that's in real estate and is trying to decide, like, because there's so much happening in the real estate world right now, do they want to stick around for that next evolution? And so maybe I'll start by just asking the question this way. Like, the people that are coming to you, they're probably asking you specific questions, but what are they usually feeling?
Generally, they're stuck. Use that word. And what does stuck really mean? Stuck means that you're not sure what's going to happen next. You're kind of swimming in ambiguity, in the unknown.
Yeah.
And when you feel that in your career, when you don't have clarity, you generally have a hard time feeling confident, and you really don't know how to act. So you have no control over your life either. A lack of control leaves you feeling pretty lost. So people tend to feel like they're not really sure who they are. They don't know what they're doing or why they're doing it. It kind of raises the voice of the inner critic in your mind. So you start doubting yourself and everything you're doing. And so in general, it's, I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm here. I don't feel confident, and I'm afraid. And I'm not sure really what I'm supposed to do, because the things that I'm doing don't really feel right to me. But they don't feel right because you haven't really spent time trying to figure out what they should be and where you should be spending your time.
What's the flip side? Because I like your living fearlessly. And so, obviously what you just outlined is the, sort of fear, uncertainty, and doubt of yourself, it sounds like. But what's the flip side? What's that living fearlessly look like?
The flip side of that is self-leadership, whereas I know who I am, I know what I'm working towards, I believe that I'm capable of handling anything that shows up, as well as I believe in my skills because I spent time actually learning them. And then because of that, I'm holding myself accountable each and every single day towards those things. So I'm showing up, I'm hanging out with certain people, I'm reading and spending my time on certain things, I'm making those calls to those leads. And if you're not holding yourself accountable to those things, people tend to procrastinate and push themselves away from it, then you're going to feel stuck, you're going to doubt yourself, etc. So self-leadership truly is the key to living fearlessly.
In your books and in some of your videos that I was checking out before our interview here, you talked about procrastination and like what that is. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, I mean, it hits each of those three pillars.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with control because I think we forget that specific piece a lot when it comes to procrastination. We think we have to do something, so then we feel bad about not doing it. Well, let's take a step back and say, maybe the thing that you think you're supposed to do isn't actually the thing that you should be doing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people kind of get lost in the feelings of failure, and then they just blame themselves, and then it's a cycle. Because if you feel bad and then you blame yourself, then you feel bad more, and then you blame yourself, and then you're still not doing the thing because you actually haven't spent the time figuring out why you're not doing it or what it means to you and how to actually do it. So if you take a step back and you go, okay, this is a thing that I actually want to spend time on. Let's say, because you've looked at it and you're like, yes, this is the thing I'm supposed to be doing. Well, then you have to give yourself like an understanding of why. Why is this thing important to me? And you figure out why that is. And then you have to ask yourself, well, then how do I actually work towards it? And then you can stop if that's enough. But a lot of times what happens is how you're supposed to work on it ends up hitting like a roadblock. To you don't believe in yourself enough, or you don't have the skills, or you haven't built an environment that allows you to do that thing. So we can pick what's something that people tend to procrastinate on in your field.
Right. Well, okay. So it could be as simple as calling your leads.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we start there, right?
Let's talk about it. So this is pretty simple.
Right.
I mean, I've actually worked with some people in the real estate industry.
Yep.
And sometimes there is an issue with that person believing that calling their leads is going to make a difference. And so you have to take a step back and go, does this person believe that calling their leads is going to lead to the outcome that they want?
Right.
And what's the outcome that people want usually when they call leads?
Close deals.
Close deals. So does this person believe, based on experience or based on who's around them, that calling their leads is going to close deals? From your experience, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I would hope that they have a pretty visceral understanding that one leads to the other. But
you can't just send a mailer or put up something on Instagram or...
I think that sometimes people wish that the leads would call them, or that they're going to close themselves.
Yeah, my friends know that I'm here. They're going to call me.
Right, exactly. Something like that.
So you have to work through that, because I think those are actual beliefs that people have. And then you show them the data and the research, and you show them what's working, and you're like, no, calling leads. Actually, like if that's all you did, calling leads is the thing that's going to help you become successful and close deals. And so then, great. Okay, so now let's say that person believes that. Okay, awesome. How are they supposed to call leads? Where are they getting that information from? Do they feel comfortable picking up the phone and actually, do they have a script? Do they know what they're going to say? So then you start breaking that down and say, well, what are the tools? How can you feel more confident in what you're doing?
Right.
And that's if the person doesn't already feel confident, which if you're not calling your leads, you probably don't believe in yourself and also probably don't think that you have the skills to be able to do the thing. So it's not like, hey, go call leads, go do this. It doesn't happen overnight. This is a process.
Right. And that almost sounds like it could be a virtuous cycle in either way. Like the more you do it, the better you get at it, the more you feel like you're good at it, versus the more you procrastinate, the more it's just going to, keep terrorizing, like self-terrorization.
Yeah. Well, if I don't
Yeah.
do it, then I can never prove to myself that I'm not good at it.
Right.
And if I don't have that experience, then I can never feel bad about myself, actually. Instead, I can just believe that calling leads isn't the way to be successful.
Right.
So let's say now, like, you've done the work, you believe in yourself, you've studied a couple things, which, by the way, we all can do. I can open up a podcast, I can open up YouTube, I can go through training, videos, whatever it is. I can talk to a friend that is successful and figure out what those things are. Then I have to say, okay, so maybe I understand it's important and I have the skills, but I'm still not doing it. Generally, what's happening is we have too many barriers in front of us to calling those leads. Don't have access to numbers. Maybe we don't have a phone. Is that a thing anymore?
Yeah, no.
But some people may say, oh, I'm not in a quiet enough place to make calls.
Right.
So I push it off. And then I'm going to do it later. I have an hour of quiet time. I'm going to do it then.
Right.
But then that hour never comes. So they push that off. So then you have to then now figure out, how am I going to control my environment? So maybe I do it right when I wake up. Is that a good time to call? But then they might be thinking, well, people aren't going to pick up their phone then. So like every action has some sort of limiting belief potentially attached to it, but you have to talk yourself out of it and convince yourself, how are you going to do this thing until you find something that works for you?
It's interesting. So out there in podcast time, there's another podcast you should go check out on Keeping It Real, where we interviewed Amin, who's in his second year of real estate and absolutely killing it. Here in real world time, we interviewed him this morning. And a lot of what we're talking about is like eerily similar. He's like, I believe that I need to call my leads, and I have this visceral experience where if I don't call my leads for a couple of days, then it starts to feel like I don't have any hot leads. And so he's sort of like self-Pavlovian trained himself to like doing it, I guess.
Into this, you have to build in that you're going to improve. That's part of the confidence piece. And maybe that's even part of the clarity piece. So when you're defining your goals with leads, and so let's take a step back and go to because the 3 C's of self-leadership: clarity, confidence, and control. We've talked about all of them kind of in a roundabout way.
Yep.
But going back to clarity, what are your values? Like, why are you doing this professionally? And you have to understand, like, oh, it's to be, like, I want X, Y, Z in my life. Great. Okay, so what goal is attached to that? And maybe a goal is, I need to call, or let's say I need to close how many deals in a quarter, whatever that number is. Start a number.
Right. 20.
20. Great. Based on my experience, how many leads do I need to call to close 20 deals in that quarter? And you get that number. And all of a sudden you have a goal and something to work towards. And then you break that down to a daily task.
Right.
And so now I have more control over the thing I have to do. I believe I can do it. I know why I'm doing it. And I built an environment that allows me to do it. And this is the same, like, literal structure you can use for anything in your life that you find yourself stuck in, especially your career.
I want to pivot a little bit, because one of the things I read in your book that hit home for me, and then Amin was saying it this morning, was feeling like your schedule was running you, not like you running your schedule. And you had some good tips on dealing with this.
When it comes to our schedule, who books your meetings? Who accepts the meetings that you receive? You do, 100%. And so when you're looking at your calendar right now, if you don't feel in control, then you have given your power away and forgotten that you are specifically the one responsible for your calendar. Right. Now you have goals, and so maybe you think you need to accept certain meetings to reach those goals, but then maybe you need to readjust how you actually want to schedule your day and your week and your month, etc. So right now, let's say that you have a to-do list that is overwhelming. You have a calendar that you look at, you just want to close, and you feel like your work is running you. It's time to recalibrate. It's time to actually revisit what work is supposed to look like for you. And often we don't do that. We wake up, we say yes to the meetings that we receive. We think that this is what we have to do. and we like basically are getting pulled forwards by all the commitments that we supposedly have when it comes to work. And so literally just maybe take a day off of work, cut all the chains around you and say, what is like my ideal situation right now, realistically, based on what's happening with work.
Mm-hmm.
And then start rebuilding. Half a Monday, maybe I don't want to take meetings. Half of Fridays, I want to take meetings. I know I'm going to work Saturdays, so in the morning, I'm going to make sure I hit the gym before I actually have to go do X, Y, Z. And so build your ideal calendar and then structure the way that you book meetings based on that. It sounds so simple, but it is. And if you have a to-do list that is consistently getting overwhelming, generally what I like to do is you pick the most important thing for that day. That's the thing you do. And everything else, like maybe you pick one or two things, everything else you throw away. And if it comes back up in the next week or so, then you can start adding things back. But generally what happens is we have just said yes to everything. We've forgotten our boundaries. And we have no idea what an ideal work day is. And so we have to sit down and actually start building that out.